Ken, as usual, we are still trying to get to the bottom of this.
This continues to be quite a mystery. Casey Cunningham reporting live tonight in Johnston County. Casey, thanks.
The Irish Whale and Dolphin Group is investigating what it describes as the unusual beaching of 3 dead whales off the west coast.
The latest whale washed ashore on a beach in County Sligo.
It's not too unusual to see a dead whale washed up on a beach in the west of Ireland, but in a little over a week, 1 dead sperm whale was spotted a good distance out to sea, and 3 have beached in Donegal, Galway and now Sligo.
This has never happened before in such a short space of time. So we're up here today to try and get an understanding of this particular whale that washed up in the street.
The whale is about 12 metres long and believed to be female, which in itself is unusual.
Typically we have males up this far north in the Atlantic. Females tend to hang around in warmer waters at lower latitudes, down around the likes of the Azores and Madeira off Portugal. So if we do have females around here, then it could be a change in the water.
An examination of one of the whale's stomachs showed no evidence of any plastic having been ingested, but there's no time now to examine the other 3 stomachs.
An unusual spike in marine life deaths. One day alone this week, 8 beached animals washed up on Long Island's North and South Forks. The data is important. Already these numbers have, almost tripled?
Yeah, it looks like we're 3 times what our numbers were for this time last year. So we're at 63 animals that we have responded to that have washed up dead on our beaches.
Since January the 1st, there is a number of 1,100 dolphins that have been found dead on the French shore. This number is a record, the highest number since the past 40 years. But we've seen an increase in this bycatch for the past 3 years. And right now it's such an alarming rate that the scientists estimate that it can drive the dolphin population to extinction.
Scientists wanting some answers tonight after 2 whales
huge whales wash up on the same shoreline.
This pair marked the 2nd and 3rd dead gray whales found in the bay in the past 2 years. There is a growing worry among biologists that this is a marker, a sign of the environment in Alaska changing and endangering the whales.
It has to be a concern for us. I think it has to be an early warning that perhaps something's changing drastically in their habitat in the north, in the Arctic waters, that they're not getting enough food.
A dead whale washed ashore on a Malibu beach, and it is getting a whole lot of attention. People soaking up sun and surfers riding waves, surprised at what they saw.
I'm an England boy, so you don't often get these things in the UK.
I've never really seen it that close.
I'm glad people are seeing it.
It washed up around 3 o'clock this morning and didn't take long for curious beachgoers to pull out cell phones, snapping pictures of a dead whale, giving off a strong odor.
A dead gray whale was found washed up along an East Bay shoreline this morning. Spectators gathered along the shore in San Pablo Bay in Rodeo.
It's created quite a stir here in town because in Rodeo, they don't often see whales. A young gray whale. The cause of his death at the moment is unknown. And floating just a few feet offshore, it is easy to see.
That's the sound. Have you heard it? A series of startling booms are being reported in northeastern Sacramento County, and people say they've been hearing these noises for months.
Now viewers are asking us to get answers.
The tranquility of this Fair Oaks neighborhood is being shattered by some mysterious nighttime noises.
It's instantaneous. It doesn't last long.
Homeowners being startled by loud booms in the late evening hours.
It's like a sharp popping sound, like pop.
The noises are loud enough to set off car alarms and wake people from their sleep.
You know, rattles the windows.
For nearly a year, we reported on loud booms in the city of Girard. Today, a loud explosion was reported in Liberty.
So far, though, the explosion remains a mystery.
You could feel it like a shockwave.
It was about 2:30 Friday.
Knocked me out of bed.
Calls to 911 reported what one caller described as sounding like a bomb going off.
It felt close. Felt really close.
It actually shook the station. My partner went out and looked up and down Belmont because we thought it was maybe a semi that had blown a tire, and we didn't see anything.
One caller thought the loud explosion may have came from a nearby gas well, but crews checked it out and said everything appeared normal.
More reports of what neighbors describe as loud boom noises across our area tonight. We got at least a dozen calls and messages about this ongoing issue and brought it as breaking news to you at 6 o'clock. Now we're learning more about the mysterious booms that rock parts of Wake and Johnston County tonight.
It was like a little bit of a weird atmosphere, and then boom, loud bang. And when I mean loud, we're talking about like it took the air out of your chest. So, you know, it sucked it right out of you. And then everybody come running out of the houses and stuff.
Neighbors say it wasn't like anything they've ever heard before.
It was so loud, and it felt like the whole, like an echo went through this neighborhood, and I'm not sure exactly what it could have been. It was so unexpected.
Tells us they did not have any training events today, so Ken, as usual, we are still trying to get to the bottom of this.
This continues to be quite a mystery.
Now, a look at the mounting toll taken by the ongoing flooding across the Midwestern United States.
Nebraska's governor characterizing the destruction as unbelievable. Look at this highway cracked in half, and this is what's left of the Spencer Dam after being destroyed by the roaring water.
Record high rivers turned small Midwest towns into islands.
In Nebraska, floodwater rendered roads and entire highway routes impassable. For farmers across Nebraska and Iowa, the record floods have been especially devastating, with many losing much of their livestock and last year's harvest.
But it's not next year that forecasters are concerned about, but the coming weeks. The flooding is expected to become worse, more widespread and record-breaking. In fact, the U.S.'s National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is warning that nearly 2/3 of the mainland USA faces an elevated risk of flooding until May. 200 million people are at risk of flooding in their communities, with some 13 million people potentially experiencing major unprecedented flooding.
Rain and significant snowmelt fueled this disaster, the worst the region has seen in decades. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois also hit hard.
In Nebraska, the damage to the state's livestock sector alone is projected to be $400 million. On Thursday, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, released a report forecasting a potentially unprecedented flood season in the current year.
But scientists also say this is the latest manifestation of a changing climate. Some researchers say, as with the rest of the world, large areas of the U.S. may soon become uninhabitable as a result of the changing climate, and not just coastal regions, but areas deep inland.
Iranian pictures of the floods show the extent of the damage. Cars washed away, roads blocked, trees submerged, and water waist deep.
The floods hit during Iran's New Year holidays, and that means that many aid workers are away from home, slowing response efforts. Iran's energy minister has blamed climate change for the unprecedented floods.
The amount of precipitation is unprecedented. For until last year, Iran was suffering from decades of drought. Drastic weather changes.
Various provinces have been devastated by more than 2 weeks of near constant rain, affecting tens of thousands of people.
Scale of destruction is unbelievable. So far, 25,000 homes have been destroyed, and these figures could increase.
Floods have affected at least 23 of the country's 31 provinces since heavy downpours began on March 19. The disaster has taken the lives of dozens of people, destroying over at least 25,000 homes around the country.
And while those who have survived try to save what's left of their belongings, more storms are forecast in the coming days.
It has been years since California has experienced a major earthquake.
And that has experts wondering, when will this quake drought end?
Living in California, it's a topic that Caltech faculty member Michael Minuti is used to talking about.
I find it pretty fascinating.
Yeah, new research suggests that California may be in an earthquake drought, but experts are saying this calm period will end, but the big question is when. In a study released today, author Glenn Biasi says California is experiencing seismic silence.
The next century seems like it needs to be busier. It could be 6 earthquakes or even more.
There's no earthquakes in this record.
Dr. Angela Chung says the UC Berkeley seismograph has been very quiet with little quake activity.
So sometimes there can be stress buildup along a fault.
Experts say the Bay Area has been particularly quiet. Since the great earthquake of 1906 destroyed much of San Francisco, there have been only 3 quakes, magnitude 6 or higher, including Loma Prieta in 1989.
If you've ever tried stargazing in Boston, it's likely the stars you think you're seeing may just be lights from a plane flying into Logan. That's because light pollution obscures the wonders of the sky. Now, a bill on Beacon Hill argues that it's bad for more than just astronomy. It's called the Dark Sky Bill.
So next week is International Dark Sky Week. It's a chance to make the case that we have lost something with light pollution. We've lost a chance to see starry night skies. We have wasting energy. We are affecting our environment, not just humans, but also animals and nocturnal beings. All around, lights at night, though we need them, are excessive and they need to be reined in.
Jeff, it's one of those days that those of us who live here in Southern California, is that kind of shared memory, that shared experience. So let's begin with a question. Do you remember where you were at 4:30 in the morning on January 17th, 1994?
Somebody help this woman here.
Does this jog your memory? Or how about this?
You know, the aesthetics part of this matters a lot to me. You know, probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever been is also one of the darkest. The dunes in Provincetown, where there's virtually no light pollution at night. And you see shooting stars almost like constantly. So the aesthetics I understand, but go down the list. Personal health, what's the impact of lights at night?
Imagine that you lived on Provincetown 1,000 years ago. You had 12 hours of really bright daylight that you were out in and 12 hours of really dark darkness. We've screwed that up on both ends. Right? During the day, we spend it indoors. We rarely get out in full spectrum sunlight. And then at night, we're playing with our devices, or we're watching TV, or we're making a late night run for munchies. All of that, we don't know how that's affecting our circadian rhythm, but I will tell you, if you disrupt your nighttime sleep habit, you wake up cranky, and there's a reason for that.
You know, I read in anticipation of coming something like the brightness of the night skies increases by something like 2% every year, which seems pretty dramatic, but was always much more dramatic and depressing to me. In the same article, I saw a stat that's saying only 15% of us in the United States can see the Milky Way from our homes because of light pollution.
Right. And you know, as you've pointed out, this is really bad for those who just love the beauty and grandeur of a night sky. It's not really about astronomy per se. It's about what our heritage is, our natural heritage, and we've lost that.
The problem is light pollution, the urban glow that obscures all but the moon and a few bright stars and planets. Is there a way of measuring how fast we're essentially losing darkness in the country?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've done a lot of research on this. Up until the 50s, actually it started with Edison, with the invention of the electric light, about the turn of the century, but for the last century we've accelerated. It didn't become noticeable until the 50s. During the 1950s, astronomers and folks started realizing that they could not see the night sky as well. Our organization was founded in '82. By that point it was clear there was a problem, and it's growing about 3 to 5% every year.
Wow.
I think people might hear the term light pollution and think, oh, that's a shame, you can't see the stars well. But in your research, you have found that this affects our sort of evolutionary rhythms. This affects animals, this affects how we sleep, which are important things.
Exactly. I mean, we were the canary in the coal mines, the astronomers, the amateur astronomers. We saw it first. But the research is showing that it affects every species, and it affects species in a very dramatic way. And it doesn't just affect us, it affects every species from plants up to humans. But the impact is pretty dramatic. If we don't get enough dark, we don't produce something called melatonin, and melatonin can be an inhibitor of all kinds of disease. It's part of the immune system.
Captured by his time-lapse photography.
I have yet to see a person come out in the night sky, look up at a sky that is dark, or look through a telescope and not go, wow. That's never happened.
They always do that.
They always do that.
In a world where people seem to spend most of their time looking down, there isn't much incentive to look up. City lights block out the night sky. The moon is just the beginning of exploration. He believes there is still plenty to learn about the universe from gazing at a truly dark night sky.
There's a lot of things out there that we don't know about, and that's what's exciting. Maybe we can still discover. We can still be those explorers, and that's not over.
One of the last places where modern man can look up and see what our ancient ancestors saw, trembling, delighting, or just basking in nature's nightlight.
This is what they're not teaching you in success programs. This is what they're not teaching you this in college or in business programs or business degrees or whatever, right? They're not teaching you this. You gotta be it, then do it to have it. You gotta be the millionaire right now. Now, see, now some confusion, right? Like, well, what do you mean? Well, I don't have any money. I'm broke. How much does it cost to have a smile on your face? $0. It costs $0. If you was a multimillionaire, wouldn't you be smiling all the time? Like if you had $100,000 that was coming into your bank account, or $10,000 that were coming into your bank account every single month, wouldn't you be smiling? You gotta apply it. You gotta do it. If you don't do it, understand that you got 80% of people, they hear this stuff, they listen to this stuff, and they don't do nothing with it. I hope that's not you. 6 years ago, when no one knew who I was, 6 years ago, I decided to be the guy.